Hey everyone, it's JPC again, and this is episode number 5 of Back in My Day. In this podcast, I attempt to answer questions I get during stream or in Discord, but with a little more structure, thought, and intent. I also get to take some reps at storytelling, which has been a to do of mine for a while. If you're enjoying the content, please like, comment, subscribe. It helps me out a lot and also gives me a little virtual pat on the back. If you have any questions or feedback, also feel free to leave them below. I love hearing from you, and I'm always looking to improve where I can. All right, let's roll the intro. This week, we're talking about analyzing gameplay for improvement. And there are two reasons I personally self review. The first is to validate the status of kind of my current focuses and see where I'm applying those things. Am I learning them? Am I getting better at them? And the second reason is to try to find new focuses or modify my current focuses in some way. Right now, I get a lot of those focuses from Wahujin. But as I've progressed and continued to grow, I have started looking for ways to pick out my own challenges or pressures to improvement um, where I can. So this is about that. Caveats here. I know for a fact there is a ton that I do not know, right? I approach my analysis with that in mind. A lot of times I use the coaching VODs from YouTube or Twitch to identify something I may be missing or lacking. Then I'll go and kind of do self analysis at that point and see if those things are stuff that I do need to work on. Needless to say, the explanations I'm providing below are not going to be perfect. They have worked for me and they have worked for my scenarios. They're definitely not all inclusive, regardless, but they are what I do, and it's what has helped me at this point to some degree. And also note that I analyze both my comp games and my practices or trainings to maximize the benefits toward improvement. I talk about practices and trainings in a previous podcast. Um, if you're interested in kind of more details on those, go check those out. Okay, the first topic here is something that's kind of said often with Wahujin. It's said a lot in Discord if you're in Wahujin's Discord, but stats don't matter. However, they are nice to use as benchmarks for how you're improving, and kind of want to go into a little bit about that. Um, so for example, headshot percentage. Nope, you shouldn't care about your headshot percentage. You should not be looking at that and saying, "Is this good? Is this bad?" It doesn't matter. Whatever your headshot percentage is, you can improve it regardless. But there's always a lot of context to a stat. So as you work on aim, for example, if that tends to be the one of the things that you want to work on, you can see um, how it's working or how you're practicing your methods are working because you're specifically focusing on aim for shooting heads. Therefore, your headshot percentage should go up. So I think it's something people realize, but you have to objectively look at stats in the vacuum that they are and not ask, is this good enough? Is this bad? Use the stats to determine if your practice is working. Use your stats to determine if your analysis and therefore implementation is working. Um, ideally, what you're doing is you're looking at the stats and you're asking, does this deviate from an expectation of how I want to play, or if I need to improve it or not improve it, and then analyze why. Just again, you have to have that context. So I was working on ADR um, a while back, and it was back when I was in gold. And one of the challenges that I was having was I didn't understand why my damage per round was as low as it was, and it turns out that part of that was I wasn't being aggressive. I wasn't getting into fights. Um, and as I analyzed my inability to find a fight um, and figure out how to uh, find more fights, I guess, for lack of a better explanation, my ADR started to increase. And so I was noticing that the stat improved because I was analyzing my gameplay and going from there. And again, I say analyzing my gameplay. Obviously, I have Woohoojin to help with the weekly sessions, and we talk about the challenges that I'm having. Outside of the Sunday sessions, Woohoojin and I don't talk about my gameplay or what I'm challenged with. Right. One of the things that Woohoojin wanted to ensure that we were always um, maintaining was that what we share on Sundays and what are in the VODs that come out on Mondays are the only conversations we're having because it was meant to be um, the the word I'm looking for is business case, is it? Of the series. I'm trying to figure out the best word for that. Either way, that was the purpose of the series, was to show that you can follow these things that this boomer is doing and ultimately do the same things as well and improve. So it's I think it's important to understand that I do get weekly help with what are my challenges now, but also everyone can get that same kind of weekly help by getting VOD reviews from Woohoojin or going to his streams and watching his VODs and whatnot. Everything that we are struggling with is somewhere in a Woohoojin bot. I pretty much guarantee it at this point, given how much he does daily. Um, yeah, so I wanted to kind of start with point number one being don't worry about your stats in a vacuum, but use them as a stepping stool for do I need to change my routines? And if you need to change your routines, you should figure out what is lacking via the analysis. So, analysis, then stats is what I wanted to kind of start with in terms of talking about analyzing gameplay. That's the baseline, in my opinion. Okay, so for point number two, so there were two things I said that I do for or why I analyze my gameplay. One is my current focuses, and the other one is future focuses. So point number two is really all about uh, using self review for comp games and practice and training to find my current focuses. So up until this last week or so, I had been solely focused on mechs. And for me, I think that, and I'll talk about this later, but I think it's much easier to understand. Like I need to work on mech, so my peaking or my crosshair placement or my burst strafe burst type of movement, your gunfight hygiene, those things are easy to analyze, and so I think that's where I'll kind of go into here, and I'll add a little bit of what my current focuses are and what I'm struggling with it, but um, the predetermined information, it's very easy to look at it and say my crosshair placement was bad. And almost every single VOD review that I did for myself during the last couple of, well, basically up until the last couple of weeks, it was very easy for me to say, oh, I panicked when I came around that corner. I was W peaking. All of those things, I still W peak. Don't tell what Hoojin, but I still W peak. Basically, at the end of the day, these current focuses, it's so easy to go in and analyze what you're currently struggling with. You just need to know what that is. Um, you can ignore everything else when you're analyzing that. I don't need to worry about my decision making. Well, I didn't need to worry about my decision making when I was solely focused on mechs. I get the question from time to time, what's the number one thing to get out of silver, right? And Woohoojin's kind of talked about the mechs and things like that, but mute your teammates, guys. You don't need to strat call. You don't need to listen to other people's comms. You calm. You don't listen to anybody else, and you look for fights. When you're analyzing your gameplay, for mechs, that's all you have to worry about. Don't worry about what you knew, what you didn't know, what you heard, what comms were coming out, pattern recognition. Those things don't matter. And so I kind of go back to that. It's very, very, very straightforward. I'm working on strafing. Was I strafing? Did I crouch shoot? Um, I think that that's the best case scenario for things that you're currently working on, and everybody should do this. Everybody should review their gameplay and their practices, especially when mechs are your primary focus. Um, yeah. So my note here is do not try to analyze decision making um, uh, when you have a mix. It's hard for me to analyze decision making because I don't know what decisions I could have possibly made in in a certain situation. So it's okay to ignore those things. I can analyze my mental state, right? What tilted me? What caused me to be frustrated? When I was working on figuring out how to not get frustrated and ultimately kind of just check out. Um, Grand in the Discord and I had a couple of long conversations about how when things aren't working the first couple of rounds, I immediately start lurking and I just kind of say, screw the team, I'm gonna go lurk. Um, we were talking about those, and actually, like it's easy to analyze that now after talking with him about it. Um, if I would have calmed a little bit more and tried to put a couple of strategies out there, or if I would have just suggested, hey, let's do X, Y, or Z, or I started asking for utility, that probably would have helped my mental state. So I think those are things that you can, if you know what you need to work on, or if you know what triggers you, um, that's a really good way to go back after a game and ask yourself what you could have done better. Um, it's also okay to say team diff and then just focus on your mechs, on what you did during the mechs. It doesn't matter why you lost the game. It matters why you didn't meet the expectation of your current focuses. Okay, and then for I guess point number three here, which is very difficult for me to kind of add a lot of talking points to, but it's finding new focuses. So right now, I need somebody to help me find new focuses. You can go and watch pro gameplay, or you can watch um, very good Twitch streamers um, who play the agents that you play, and you can see the things that they're doing. But it's hard to grasp at times. It's hard to grasp what they're doing or why they're doing it if you don't have the knowledge. So I'm going to throw out a Dunning Kruger here, right? So I hadn't actually not heard of Dunning Kruger until I started playing Dota a couple years back, and went and looked it up. So I know I'm going to butcher this, but for those that don't know what Dunning Kruger is, in a very simplistic way of explaining it, it's about competencies, and that somebody who is incompetent when it comes to a task or knowledge cannot understand how incompetent they are, right? Someone who lacks competency will never be able to understand how incompetent they are. There's another side of it which talks about the fully competent don't understand how incompetent people aren't getting it. How do you not understand this? It's so easy for me. Which is why you hear people say, "Oh, Valorant's so easy," or "X is so easy." Those people, assuming that they are good and understand what they're doing, they actually do believe that, and it's impossible for some of those people to break down what is and isn't working for a less competent person. And competent, it's not meant to be a four-letter word here, right? It's not meant to be an insult. Um, but going into something, if you don't know how to do it, I'll give you an example. I had no clue that I needed to focus on movement when I first started playing Valorant. And so I went in all the time looking to focus on aim, 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 right? This is a common story when it comes to Valorant. And until somebody took me aside and said, no, you need to focus on movement, I never would have started working on movement. Um, so it's as soon as you got that information, you can take the next steps from there. So, okay, so the reason I bring that up is we should always go in assuming that we don't know everything, which I believe a lot of people do. But what makes that difficult is if we don't know what the problems we can solve are, it makes it very, very difficult to find a that as a focus. Um, and so I think one, objectively acknowledge that we need help, right? And then get other people's eyes on your shit, right? Get them to look at it and ask those questions. Um, there are people absolutely that are able to go and watch, let's say, Tarek play Jet and then turn around and go, oh, he did this, this, this. I need to work on that. But unless you know the context of why he was doing it, sometimes it makes it very hard to um, apply that or figure out how to analyze your gameplay to add that to it. Um, However, I that's an alternative if you can't get somebody to take a look at these things. But right now, my current focus, so I go into what I've been given and how I'm analyzing it. My new focus is, and we actually just learned this on today on Sunday. I'm doing this after the Boomer to Diamond stream. Um, the current focus is figuring out how to play off my teammates, um, to be the second person swinging in a flash zone, right? So Bahujin talked about doing flash zones. I never ever would have picked up that that's something that I need to start doing now. Like I know I wasn't doing it, but it wasn't something that was holding me back up till this point, and now it is. And I think that's the other side of figuring out new focuses. I have this habit of I'm improving, and then boom, you plateau, and you have to know what you need to change to get off of the plateau, right? And for me, there's this kind of these phases of the game moves at a certain speed at different levels. I think everybody can acknowledge that, and I can potentially play 100 games at a certain phase and figure out how to do things a little bit differently. I think you can do that. If you can't get other people's eyes on your gameplay, I think you can develop the pattern recognition over time. An example I used with this was whenever I played Call of Duty, a new um, game would come out, right? Black Ops 3 or whatever. And you have a bunch of new maps. Um, it took me time. It takes people time to figure out uh, where the places to camp are. It takes people time to figure out where the best places to hold an angle are. Um, where are the places of the map that are hard to clear? And in if you kind of can wrap your head around that, that's how playing Valorant to me has been, going through each rank, right? The game moves at a different speed, and I have to figure out those little nuances that the people in this rank now play with. People who've come down from diamond into plat play the game differently than people who have moved from gold into plat. Um, so there's always that learning, um, that learning curve of each subsequent level. Um, and I think that part of this, the new focuses, are asking yourself, why did I die there? And why wasn't I dying there when I was in gold? What are these guys doing differently than what was happening to me in the previous rank? Smurfs are a great reason to think about this. If you go against a Smurf, 9 times out of 10, they're doing shit that they can't always get away with in their higher ranks, in our ranks, in my rank, because I'm not used to it. And yeah, maybe some of it is they're just a little bit faster or they're just a little bit more efficient. But I can tell you the first time I played against a diamond player, they lurked in a way that I had never experienced. And I got shit on that entire game. Um, I see it still from time to time, and I've learned from that a little bit. But that's how you pick up new focuses if you can't get somebody's eyes on. You have to go back and watch the game and ask yourself, how did that person get through our chain, right? So Wojin talks about the chain. If they got through our chain somehow, how did they do it? What did I do to incorrectly? What did my team do incorrectly? Um, for that to happen the way that it did, and how can I learn from that? So it's a slower process learning new focuses, but at the end of the day, it is something that you can do on your own. All right, I got a little long-winded there, but let's go ahead and close it up here. So stats don't matter, right? So as a recap here, stats don't matter, but they are great for analyzing the improvements or the things that you are working on, as long as there's that context behind them. And I think that's very important. That you can use that um, when you're doing your current focuses and you're analyzing your current focuses. Because one, you can use that again as a guide, but two, you know what you're working on. I know the mechs that I need to work on, and I can see that very easily. And if it's working, if I'm seeing it less and less, if I'm seeing the errors less and less in my current gameplay, then my stats should be reflecting that as well. So again, I think that those two go hand in hand very easily. And then analyze for new focuses. See how you can put your own eyes on somebody else's gameplay and correlate that to yours. Even if that means go in and watch a review your gameplay against a Smurf. That's totally a viable way to do that. Go and correlate your gameplay against a pro VOD or a pro streamer um, as well. Or if nothing else, just get some new eyes on your gameplay and ask, what is it you're missing? And objectively ask those questions. What am I missing? Well, that's it for this week. I thank everybody for hanging out. You guys are great. Next week, I'm going to be discussing pushing yourself. So, how I decide to, or how I mentally wrap my head around what I need to do to improve and the pushing yourself side of it. I've talked about this previously with training routines and things, but I want to specifically talk about how I mentally prepare myself to push myself, and then also uh, what I'm doing um, physically to do that, even in video games. So, yeah, and maybe talk about some updated stats that I have with the eliminate 100, sorry, eliminate 50, and then moving to eliminate 100 in different parts of my training routine, because those numbers have updated a little bit. All right, thank you all. Good luck in your games, and I'll see you next week.